Roberto De Zerbi said that his team are used to controlling games and that Arsenal are one of, if not the best team in the league. Why has he said that? We're going to have a look at what Arsenal did so well in the press, how good their defensive numbers are, and what Arsenal have added differently this season through Kai Havertz as well, that ultimately secured the second goal and a really big win. It was maybe Arsenal's best performance of the season. Talking about it off camera, me and Graham were saying perhaps that was the best, and you tend to agree, Graham. Welcome back to the show. Shame we couldn't have you last week. We can blame the transport system for that, but it's great to have you.
Yes, thanks, James. It's great to be back. Yes, and Arsenal got back to winning ways yesterday at Emirates Stadium with a dominant display and a convincing 2-0 win over Brighton. The only criticism for me is probably we lacked a clinical edge. Probably guilty of what I would describe as some fluffy finishing and overplaying some enticing opportunities in the first half. But this was a great performance by the team, a really fast start. They played with pace, precision, cohesion, lovely patterns of play, and had 26 shots, which I think is the most we've had in a game since March this year. I think the key to the game, though, what we're going to talk about today, is how Arteta stifled and dismantled De Zerbi and Brighton's build-up, which I thought was a really important factor in our win.
Yeah, completely agree. We start as always with the match stats that you sent through. 26 shots to Brighton's 6. I believe they had 0 by half-time, which is the only time I believe De Zerbi and Brighton have gone 45 minutes without conceding a shot in a half. So apparently that was a stat someone told me.
We had 15 shots at goal in the first half to their 0 on
there you
0.
go.
Yeah.
Fantastic. 8 on target for us to their 1 on target. We had slightly less possession, but that actually doesn't surprise me because we're going to talk about the transition football we played and the press. So actually conceding a little bit of possession at times, part of the game plan. Slightly less passes completed, but an XG of 2.49 to their 0.73. The attacking stats very good as well. 53 final third entries, 79 deep touches and 34 zone 14 touches. Declan Rice, Saliba, Gabriel absolutely ate up that area of the pitch. That team's going to be so dangerous in. A field tilt of 74% for Arsenal as well. They tackled us more expected, but we intercepted them more. Again, this would all be explained in why Arsenal's press was so effective. They cleared the ball more and we only allowed 12.9 passes per defensive action, which is higher than normal, but that's probably with respect to Brighton, who are very good in possession under De Zerbi. Now, one of the things we saw, we're going to talk about the press. I've already alluded to it 3 times in this intro, but was a really fast start from Arsenal that was helped by the press. But there was a tempo in possession. You sent through these as well. In the first 15 minutes, Arsenal had 62 final third touches with 4 shots to Brighton's 0 in that time as well. It was an electric start from Arsenal, not in terms of Verbruggen making 3 world-class saves in the first 15 minutes, but in terms of the pace, the tempo. I mean, I was sort of thinking, we look like we're playing on fast forward. It was really electric from Arsenal.
It was a really electric start, James, and the key to it, I think, is the way that we actually pressed high up the pitch from the start. I noticed immediately from my position at the stadium yesterday that Gabriel and Saliba were literally 5-10 yards inside the Brighton half.
Yeah.
And we literally sort of like had forced them back into their shape. And we were moving the ball really quick. It was sort of like there was... What I really loved yesterday was the way that Ben White was getting on the ball offensively, coming short, and we got this lovely little movement now going with Bukayo Saka, where to get Saka closer to goal and to force him away from out wide, where he's often doubled up on, White will come inverted, and then he will play the ball through to Saka, and Saka will come onto his favourite left foot, and that creates opportunities, passing opportunities. So there was a lot of quick passing, a lot of quick movement. Great movement down the right-hand side. I thought Martin Odegaard was orchestrating it again superbly yesterday. And Declan Rice was pushing high. And I thought the team were really playing the ball around with real pace and intensity in that opening 15 minutes. Yeah,
I completely agree. Now we want to talk about the press here because we've got the teams, the 4-3-3, we've got the 4-2-3-1 of Brighton. You never really know what Brighton are going to go with 11-wise because they do rotate a lot. That's a big thing about De Zerbi's philosophy as a manager. So Arsenal couldn't really plan that much for a particular man-to-man, though they did kind of know exactly what maybe Brighton's tactics would be. So if we just move everyone, because we pre-prepared this coming into the show, and were we pressing it there? Are we stopping it there? Right, there we go. So you've recreated this, and you're describing it as a zonal press. Explain to everyone what we mean by that.
Yeah, I thought we pressed in 2 ways in this game. I thought to try and dismantle Brighton in build-up from their box build-up, and they play a lot of bounce passes around you. Yeah. They did that at the Emirates last season.
And when you say box build-up, you mean Van Hecke, Dunk, Gilmour,
yeah. So we've given
Gross,
Dunk a football.
Yeah.
And this is what I would call a zonal press. Martin Odegaard has pressed high, and he's pressed onto Dunk, and he's now, his shadow is covering a ball into like Gilmour. So we've got like Havertz high in a zone, Jesus high, Odegaard high, Saka not out wide on Milner, more zonal. So we've got like a zonal 4 here, with Rice pushing high as well. I would describe this as almost like when they had settle play, Dunk got on the ball, looking to progress through midfield. I think we went more zonal.
Yep, and then obviously they start their build-up though from goalkeepers. We know Verbruggen and Jason Steele, whoever they pick, can be very, very good playing out the back. And we had a plan for that, which wasn't so zonal.
Now, this is more man-to-man. And I've used this as an example, but there were other examples I could have used.
Yeah, sure.
To try and sort of like condense it.
The shapes can't be taken too literally.
No.
We're trying to illustrate.
This is a particular shape when they went out to the left. Milner would push on. So the moment Zerbi is going to play it to Dunk, Odegaard would aggressively press Dunk straight away. And then Saka would then go man-to-man on
well, you got because Gilmour drifted left.
Yes, sorry, on Gilmour.
Yeah. So when the ball comes out to the left, let's show it.
Yeah.
So
what I've got now is Odegaard pressing on to Dunk, and as I say, Gilmour, who couldn't get the ball in the middle here, started drifting out onto the their left-hand side, and then Saka would go man-to-man on Gilmour. With that, Milner, who he was going to be pressing onto, would be covered by White, and then Saliba would come across to Mitoma. So this was like what we would do man for man on this side if they went out on this side. That's an example of it. The other example I could give is more or less when we were pressing high, if you were to take it back a bit.
Yeah, I've switched it to this right-hand side. I don't know if that's going to illustrate it the way
it does illustrate it perfectly, James, because here what you've got now is I just want to show Saliba and Gabriel. They were monsters yesterday. Dan Potts described them in his interview, and he made a great point. Because they were taking care of Lallana or Ferguson. We often were so high up the pitch. A field tilt was massive in our favour in that first half. We left a 2v2. The ball from Brighton, really, if they wanted to make some progression, was Verbruggen to Ferguson. But whenever he tried that, Saliba just dealt with it comfortably. So they couldn't do that. But primarily, they'd like to build up with a box build-up and then play bounce passes around you to get the ball up the pitch. But we were going man-to-man on either side with comfortable with our two centre-halves high up in this press to stop them from doing that. So Arsenal nullified them in two ways, I thought. Zonally, when they wanted to play through the middle, and then when they wanted to play out wide, we went man for man on both sides, and with our two centre-backs pushing up high in a 2v2, we stopped them from really playing the sort of football that they wanted to play.
Yeah.
And the whole of that first half, in fact, the whole of the first 65, 70 minutes was, I thought, played in the Brighton half.
Well, I've got to say, we're trying to explore a little bit why De Zerbi has given us so much praise. And, you know, some people might say Newcastle have the best press in the league. And I think they've got the most aggressively physically imposing press in terms of they can suffocate you in the way Liverpool did for so many years under Jurgen Klopp. But I think in terms of the best tactical press, I'm talking the best sort of positioning of players to force certain moments. I don't know if there's anyone I know that does it, or any team I know that does it better than Arsenal, because
so well coached by Arteta. You've got to give Arteta enormous credit.
Yeah.
Last season when they played us at the Emirates, we were very passive, and they passed around us quite comfortably. He coached this really well this week. Arsenal were really on it from minute one in two ways, as I say, zonally and man-to-man, a combination of both. And I think Brighton are really good at this style of football. Let's make no bones about it. They played this football,
and they played out the back.
They played out in the back, and they've sort of like created situations where they've scored in something like 30 consecutive games in the Premier League through being able to play through teams and get their players up high. They had none of this in this game, apart from a little spell in the last 5-10 minutes where they fashioned one really good opening when Mitoma played in Gross, and he should have done better. But apart from that, they couldn't play any of their football because we were so well disciplined and so intense in our press. The work rate of players like Jesus and Odegaard and Rice was unbelievable in that game. They were on it all through the game. They didn't let Brighton breathe. They suffocated them, didn't they?
Yeah, you're completely right. And I mean, the way we've illustrated it, like you just said a couple of minutes ago, these are just examples. But I mean, there's also other ways to show. I mean, Havertz, for example, you talked about Havertz, Jesus, Sødegaard being quite narrow. Rice at times felt like he was further away because he knew he could eat up the ground to get there. It was almost like baiting, saying, if you want to go in there or if someone wants to drop deep, don't worry, I'm going to get there. Havertz, I thought, did a really good job on Gross, but at times he had to drop a little bit nearer to Rice as well. So they were constantly mixing it up. The other thing that you've alluded to is that the centre-backs were really high. So if the ball did try going to Ferguson, they had no problem following him all the way, and then they would just cover.
Or Gabriel following Lallana, for example. The key to this really is the way that we condense the pitch. Mm-hmm. To have that, you've got to have two centre-backs who are comfortable pushing up really high, can take care of their man-to-man in that sort of positions. Because the gaps between the players is so small. I mean, when we recreated it on the board, we thought we were struggling to get the players in. But when I was watching on the pitch yesterday, the gaps between the forwards, the midfielders and the defenders is so small now. When you think of the old Arsenal, even under Emery, I can think back to the Emery days, even under Wenger, the space between the midfield and the defence was massive. And now, because he's got these players sort of like who he trusts and he's coached them so well, they can implement this and stifle teams and suffocate teams, and that's what they did to Brighton yesterday.
Completely agree. Just a quick question. We still have so much to talk about on this game, but with Liverpool coming on the weekend, do we man for man Liverpool across the pitch? I mean, we were just talking about it a little bit before, Do you have something like Gabriel coming across to Salah, which we saw at Anfield back in April? Do we show them a bit more respect and do what United did, which is basically try and nullify them, force them into balls into the box, and then try counter? Because we are improving on that side of things with Saka and Martinelli. You could go either way with it.
It's a difficult one, isn't it? I mean, I said to you last week when we went to Villa, I would have had a double pivot. Mm-hmm. So when Zinchenko comes into midfield, Rice can drop across into that left-hand side. He's not a single pivot. He's on Jorginho's central, and he's on the left-hand side, which gives us protection if Zinchenko comes inside or inverts. And you've got to remember, they've got Mo Salah. Mm-hmm. Last year when we played him at the Emirates, Arteta used Tomiyasu primarily to push Salah, because Tomiyasu can play with his right foot, as well as his left foot. So Tomiyasu a better defender. He hasn't got that at Anfield this time. And when we went to Anfield last season, we were 2 up, and one of their goals came down that left-hand side when Zinni was nutmegged, I think, and they put the cross in and scored. So it is an issue. I don't think Arsenal would change the way they play, and I think they will go man for man. And I think what you said to me pre-show is probably right, that Gabriel just push across into that left-hand side and Zinni inverts. Mm-hmm. It is a danger, but then we offer more going forward than what Man United do to give Liverpool more problems. And I think Arteta probably feels we got the team offensively to cause them problems as much as they could probably have their moments of attack as well through Salah. So I think it's going to be a game where we go head to head. I think he'll be confident in the players he's got. One thing he showed yesterday is that when he sets the team up off the ball, they all know their jobs, and albeit Salah have enormous quality, and Salah always, it's Anfield, isn't it? The Anfield factor as well. But I think this team is growing, is evolving in the way he wants it to evolve. You talked about Havertz now. You're going to do a great piece on him later. The way he's evolving into that position. The way Declan Rice now is playing in games. He's a 9 out of 10 performance every game.
Yeah. Even when he's ill.
Even when he's ill. He's driving forward, making runs, he's getting back, making tackles, ball recoveries. So the players he's brought in, Havertz and Rice, and having a major influence in the way he wants to play now. Mm-hmm. Just imagine if you had Julian Timber on that left-hand side.
I know.
In answer to your question, I think we will stick to the same team. Remember, he played the same team on Sunday, James. I think that's the first time this season he's played the same team consecutively. Yeah. And I think this is his team. He likes his team. He's got 9 of his team who he's bought in this team. Only Saka and Martinelli, who he didn't buy now. So I think he's confident working with this group. And confident in the way they're playing.
I think this 11 on the pitch that played well at Villa Park, though lost, that played brilliantly against Brighton, I think this is the 11 that I reluctantly felt this might be what Arteta thinks is his best 11 because of the money he spent on Havertz and Rice, and Partey's got his injury problems, and White and Zinchenko who he signed last season, and White he rates so highly. Actually, you're starting to see why and where that balance works. So we're going to talk about Arsenal in possession a little bit more, but just to end on the defensive side of things that we're doing so well. Arsenal's defence this season, thank you for your research on this, Graham, because it's fantastic. For goals conceded, we rank first. For XG conceded, we rank first in the Premier League. Second for shots faced. First for shots on target faced. And 7 clean sheets also makes us the most in that, 17 games now. 7 clean sheets. So they say, attackers win you games, defences
win your title.
Well, listen, we've got the platform. And I thought up at this point a year ago, we also had a good platform in terms of our defence being good, very good, if anything. But this is looking like elite stuff, like the pressing, the ability. We're just focused on the press. We're not even talking about when Brighton did, on very few occasions, mainly in the second half, cross the halfway line, and we had 2 brilliant banks of 4. Arsenal are showing really different ways of defending and managing situations. The focus is immense. The work rate, even when we got the second goal, is immense. I mean, the work rate is wow. I used to watch really lazy players at Arsenal that probably didn't know or think they were lazy. Maybe I didn't realise they were lazy. When you look back, this is work rate, and let's hope it lasts the distance, because they're leaving a lot out there, the players.
They are, and I think the work rate the players are putting in on the pitch at the moment, off the ball, is probably the best I can remember of an Arsenal team. Since the Invincibles, probably. Tremendous, and I think Declan Rice has a lot to do with that. His performances in the team, because remember, he's playing single pivot, and a lot of people thought last year, if we didn't have Thomas Partey playing that role, we might struggle. And when he came into the side, I thought that he more favoured the left-hand side. Yeah. But now he's really grown into the team. He can play anywhere on the pitch. This man, he's absolutely a brilliant player.
We're so lucky to have him.
So lucky to have him, yeah.
I mean, we're not just lucky, it's the great work of Edu and Arteta, but I'm just very lucky that they've got that deal done, because it's fantastic. Let's talk about certain players as well, as I just open this up. Gabi Jesus got the goal. What did you make of his performance in general? Brilliant bit of skill on Lewis Dunk, who I thought was great, by the way, for Brighton. But Jesus leading the line, he was at times bringing players in or whatever, but it's just good to see him actually score a poacher's goal. We got some of his numbers. He had, is that right, 100% pass accuracy? Because that's unbelievable. That's the
number I got, yeah.
That is phenomenal. 49 touches, 2 ground duels won, 2 key passes and a goal as well.
I think he was absolutely brilliant, the way he knitted everything together. Deserved his goal. Bit fortunate the way we got the goal, which deflection off the defender, I think it was Van Heck, wasn't it?
Van Heck sort of flicked onto.
Across. But he did what all good strikers do. He peeled off to the back post, and that's where you often get tap-ins at the back post, and he was there to take his chance. I thought first half he was guilty of maybe 1 or 2 sort of shots, where he was shooting from positions where, I know we want players to shoot, but just couldn't see him scoring from there.
Yeah, they lacked conviction. They were speculative.
Speculative sort of shots. Yeah. But generally, his all-round game, his work rate, his pressing, the way he's sort of interchanging with players, and also the positions he took up on the pitch, and also his little flicks. It was a complete performance. It was a complete performance by him.
Yeah, I completely agree.
I think he's back now to the levels that he was last season. I honestly believe in this performance. All round, just probably. You could maybe a little bit more clinical in his finishing when he gets into some good positions, I think. But generally, his all-round play was a joy to watch yesterday.
I do love Jesus. What about Saka? Because I've done a lot of this. His numbers are amazing, and I love him for that. And it's fantastic. He's got great output. But I don't know if he's the winger that we saw last season. I think there was a big piece we did after the Villa game on the wingers and actually how much they're getting into dangerous positions. But Bukayo Saka was terrorising Milner. Now, let's be fair to Milner, an ultra-professional who's had a fantastic career in the game, at the age of maybe, 35, 36, I'd expect Saka to have the joy he did, so we've got to keep that into account. But he just looked electric. It was his work rate as well. He was going outside, inside. He got the beating of him a couple of times in the first 10 minutes. We've got some of the stats here. 87% pass accuracy, 63 touches, 34 out of 39 passes completed, 20 out of 25 final third passes completed, 6 out of 8 ground duels won, 3 key passes, and created a big chance as well. He was just balling out, Saka, just having a good time of it.
He was just too hot for them to handle. So hot, in fact, that they fouled him rotationally 4 times in about 7 minutes. And neither of I don't think any of their players picked up a booking in that period, and
Typical.
it took Mikel to wave the old card to the referee.
Only to get a card himself.
To get a card for himself.
Not the worst
To
yellow
remind the
card.
referee to do his job, because basically
true.
he'd already booked Ben White for his first foul when we messed up on a free kick, and he held someone back, I think. But he was letting a lot of fouls on Saka go, and we've had this debate before on the show about there's a lack of protection for Saka. You know, they just queue up in a rotation sort of way to foul him. And what I loved again, as I said when I did my intro today, is that we found a way now of getting him 1v1 on more occasions, because he was, when he was coming up on this side, often being doubled up on. We're getting him inside now, so he's coming from out to in, playing ball so he can run at defences from closer to goal and play one or two nice one-touch movements. So his performance, particularly in the first half, I thought he faded slightly in the second, maybe. If that's fair, I don't know if you agree with that, but
yeah.
In the first half, everything good came from Saka down that side.
Yeah, completely agree. Now another player I want to talk about is Kai Havertz, who got the winning goal. We could hear it here in the studio down at the Emirates. Big goal for Kai Havertz. The reason I want to talk about him today is because I think for the first time it's starting to really click. Now, some of you might be in the comments going, it was obvious, James, we could see this before, we learnt this 2 months ago, why are you so slow? You can always see where players are standing, you get an idea for what they're trying to do. But for the first time, I'm actually starting to see it work. Now, understanding Kai Havertz, if we just sort of move Brighton into some sort of defensive position, I'm sort of making it up a little bit, guys, but what I really want to show is Arsenal, because here's what we saw last season, and you've all heard it, this is probably the 100th time you've heard it on this show now. We talk about Ødegaard in that channel, Xhaka would be in that channel, Rice would be supported by, not Rice, would be Partey last season, but Zinchenko would come in, and there you go, that's the build-up, roughly, you get the idea. But the thing I'm noticing about Kai Havertz is it used to be that if Zinni didn't come inside, Xhaka would be that little bit deeper and build up, Jesus would be a bit nearer. What we're seeing is Ødegaard getting a lot more of a playmaking role. We've talked about him looking like an 8. We talked about it after the Wolves game. I think there's evidence of that in the Luton win as well. And Havertz is starting to stroll basically into this striking position. Now, he's still there to receive it at times, but he's often also moving on to the last man. So Jesus can maybe drift into that area, or Martinelli can drift inside a little bit. And there's the only evidence I can put forward to Havertz in his very unique role, which is basically, we were joking, don't take this too seriously, but we were joking saying he's like, if a false 9 is a striker who drops in, he's a false 10, because he's sort of, you see him as a midfielder on paper, but actually he's moving further forward and he's expected to be on the end of things. So I've got a couple of things I want to show everyone here. Firstly, his SofaScore heat map, which you can see on screen now. He's playing, I mean, that's a left winger's heat map. He is right on the touchline there in that left channel. Then I'll show you by who scored Havertz's touches. Well, 4 of them are shots in the box, and quite a lot of them are in central pockets. I mean, yeah, most of them out to the left, but gets into central pockets as well. And then I go to SofaScore's average position, and you can see that number 29 and number 9, they're actually touching. They're very close, Jesus and Havertz, because where Rice and Ødegaard are roughly where I'd expect them to be, Havertz is actually quite close to the forward line. And where I saw this really come to life is with his goal. Now, a lot happens. Trossard does some great work to get himself into this area, and Ødegaard drifts inside as well, so that he can receive that cutting pass through the lines. They've worked Brighton really well. But as this move develops, we've got to remember, we're 1-0 down. We're holding on to something. Sorry, yeah.
1-0 up.
Must remember that. We were 1-0 up. We have something to hold on to.
Yeah.
So really, your 6'4" central midfielder, who, has been doing quite a lot of good defensive work, should maybe be there to keep things covered. But no, he's the highest up the pitch. Ødegaard has recognised that there's an opportunity to come and facilitate the build-up. And Eddie's dropped into that space. And that is feeding into the whole average position we were showing of Jesus and Havertz, where they're actually quite close. Because I think there's a recognition that if someone's going to drop into build-up, which our striker always does, then Havertz can cause havoc by being on that front line, and no one quite knows who should be picking him up. So I'm going to show it in slow motion. When Trossard plays this really lovely ball into Ødegaard, who takes a quick touch for Rodding into Eddie, Havertz, that's a striker's run. That's a 10's pass into a striker's run, except it's a striker delivering it to our central midfielder, and Havertz puts it in the back of the net. And I find it really interesting that in so many ways he is on paper a central midfielder, and we're going to talk about him out of possession in a second because it's a totally different job he does there. But in possession, you're not really expecting him to do so much because it's actually about being a finisher, not a facilitator and a creator. And just before I bring you in on this, Graham, because I really want to get your thoughts on all this, I've got a load of screenshots here. I'm going to show you. This is from FB Ref. Some of these numbers look poor. FB Ref passing numbers. Look at his ranking for passing numbers. Not great. A lot of red and grey on the board. Not very much green. Again for pass types, although right up there for passes blocked. Again for goal and shot creating actions. Not that great. And then you look at possession as well. Not a lot there. By the way, hit the pause button if you want to look at these properly. But there's not that much. But what do you see there? You see touches in the attacking penalty area, 5.9 per 90 in the 98th percentile. He's also up there for carries into the penalty area, and he's also up there for progressive passes received because he's on the end of things. He's about impacting the final third, whether he's doing it as a 9 or whether he's doing it from midfield. And then we go into a shooting stats via FB Ref, and they go right up for goals per 90, goals and shots on target per 90, penalty kicks attempted, expected goals, non-penalty expected goals, all there. He's up there. And by the way, he's also in the 95th percentile for aerial duels, 1 per 90. So he's a midfielder, but he's got a totally different role to anything I've ever seen any midfielder have to do.
I think it's the role that I think that Arteta always envisaged for him, to be fair. And I think that I've noticed over the last few weeks, I think that's 4 goals now in his last 7 appearances for the club. He's gaining in confidence in this role. And I think he brings that physicality, a striker's instinct. He can get into the box. So he's a combination of almost like a midfielder and a striker, almost like a hybrid player. Another of these Arteta hybrid sort of players, you could argue. What I love about that goal, before I go back to Kai Havertz, just go back, is what I love about this is, first of all, Trossard, just for a split second, I thought he was playing for Brighton. He started heading towards our goal. And then he reverses it into Martin Odegaard, and a really clever pass from Odegaard. But the pass that makes the goal for me,
let's get Eddie into that position.
Eddie Nketiah. Because Eddie's been criticised a lot this season for maybe making the wrong pass or the wrong decision. He gets that absolutely spot on. It's the right pass, it's the right weight, and he plays it into Kai Havertz. He takes it on his left side as he moves in, and I didn't doubt that he was going to put that away. He dinks it, almost dinks it over the goalkeeper.
It's a nice little lift to make sure that the goalkeeper's stretched leg can't
and it was a great goal. I think Havertz is now finding his place in the team. This is very much what Arteta envisaged for him. And that pass from Eddie, I thought, made the goal. We haven't mentioned, I just want to give credit while we're on it, a pass from Martin Odegaard in the first half, off the outside of his foot into Saka's feet, into his space to move on to, was an absolutely world-class pass.
It was.
But Havertz, this is now, he's starting to find his feet in this team. And he's almost, when Jesus drops in now, we've almost got that forward to attack the box.
Yeah, I completely agree. Now, I just want to, again, just show the 11s. We talked about the press being brilliant, but for someone who's got such a unique role, that's why I say, I don't know a midfielder that does what Havertz does. Now, I've been balanced and showing everyone the FB Ref stats for people who aren't convinced by him. I understand why you're not convinced by him. The numbers don't look good. The numbers actually support your eyes. But he's very good at what Arteta seems to want him for, which is, you're the finisher. You're on the end of things. And there are moments where Arsenal have to drop into a shape like this, and Jesus is there, and Odegaard can press. Now, sometimes Havertz does, will join the forward line, Odegaard will drop deeper, but they're using his physicality as well, just to add. I mean, that's 6'2", 6'4", 6'3", 6'4", down the centre of the pitch, and it's just like, play through us. And then you see, again, via his FB Ref numbers, that his tackles in the middle third of the pitch here are very good, Havertz, because he knows how to engage. He's actually doing the defensive work quite well. He's winning headers in these areas. He's winning second balls. It's such an extraordinary... It's like Arteta has said to him, right, Havertz, you're going to be very good when we don't have the ball. Sorry, you're going to be very good when you don't have the ball. So when everyone else has it, you make the runs and create the space and get on the end of things. And when they have it, you win the ball back and be in positions to stop them playing. But when you have the ball, keep it simple. Just give it and move. I don't want you to do anything. I don't want you playing the through balls that Ødegaard played that were brilliant. I don't want you, spamming cross into the box. I don't want you trying to drive past a load of players. If you can, great. But it's almost like you just be the genius off the ball. And if he is, and if he becomes that, we'll see. We've got a long way to go. He's only just recently in the last month found this improved form. But it's so unique. I've never seen Arteta use a player like the way he's using Kai Havertz.
He has, and we've got like 2 different style number 8s now, haven't we? We've got Ødegaard, who we know is great on the ball, driving forward, the way he loves to sort of like orchestrate the play and nice little touches. And we've got Havertz, as you say, with more physicality, more off the ball. He's better. Well, Ødegaard's also, I'd say, works hard off the ball, but he's good off the ball as well. And what Arteta has done, I think, he's added real steel, physicality and height to this team. You've got, as I say, you've got 2 centre-backs now, Saliba and Gabriel. You've got Rice in front of them and you've got Havertz. That's 4 really tall, strong, physically powerful players he's added to the team. Arsenal teams in the past, the old teams used to be players of small stature, and now we've added this physicality. And it's showing. We talked about the goal from the corner. That was our 8th goal from the corner this season in the Premier League.
Corners were good yesterday.
Yeah, corners were good. We got Bukayo Saka swinging them in from the left. But I was in the stands yesterday. Some of those Gabriel Martinelli in swinging corners from the right, putting them under enormous pressure, were absolutely unbelievable deliveries yesterday. And when you've got players like that to attack it, it's a tremendous advantage. I think Dunk made one brilliant clearance off the line when someone got a near post flick on. We nearly scored from it. So yes, Havertz is part of what Arteta wants in this team. It's powerful, physical, tall players. And that does seem to be working. Yeah,
completely agree. And if you missed it earlier, I know I alluded to these numbers, but may as well just show you very quickly that Kai Havertz's defensive numbers, when you go to FB Ref per 90, he's actually in the 44th percentile for tackles, 31st for tackles won, 2nd for tackles in the defensive third, but all the way up to 86th percentile for tackles in the middle third and 69th for tackles in the attacking third. Just shows you that so much of his great work is about his ability to press and dominate in these central areas. Otherwise, I think Arteta's happy to say, don't worry too much, let everyone else do everything. Obviously he gets stuck in, I'm not saying he doesn't, but it's about the impact off the ball he's adding, and I'm starting to see it. For the first time, I'm really starting to understand that impact. All right, over to the roundup stats.
Thank you, James. The roundup stats for this week. Arsenal now unbeaten in their last 13 home games across all competitions. Wow. That's 11 wins and 2 draws. Their longest run under Arteta and longest overall since December 2018, that was also 13 games. As I said, Kai Havertz has now scored 4 goals in his last 7 appearances for Arsenal across all competitions. Gabriel Jesus, who we've been lauding today, has now been involved in 14 goals in 15 Premier League starts for Arsenal at the Emirates Stadium. That's 9 goals, 5 assists. So it's 14 goal contributions for Jesus. He continued his run in the league of never being on the losing side when he scores in a Premier League game.
Nice.
The overall record now when he scores in a Premier League game now stands at 59 games, 54 wins, 5 draws and no losses.
Wow.
And finally, James, for all Arsenal's open play dominance yesterday, it was a corner that broke the deadlock.
Yep.
Arsenal's 8th goal from a corner this season, the most scored by a club in the league this season. I think we've also scored most set plays in the league this season. I think it's 10. So, yeah, overall, yesterday I thought left a few goals on the pitch. Some people argue we weren't clinical enough. I know Julian made a great point in his fan cam about that. But the team played with real spirit and dominated a very good Brighton side who failed to score, I think, for the first time in 32 Premier League games yesterday.
Yeah.
It was a great performance. Left a few goals on the pitch, but it was a great watch. I thoroughly enjoyed watching it yesterday.
I completely and utterly agree. Now, 2 players, just as we round up, I really do want to just quickly say, just a line on Martin Ødegaard. When everyone was purring after the Wolves game, I remember we did a tactical insight straight after that. I was saying there was frustrations in the final third for me from Ødegaard, despite him showing some brilliance. This for me was a much more polished performance, everything right decisions every time. Even when he shot and he didn't get it right, whatever, I was totally fine with it. He was right to shoot in the areas he got into.
Keeper made one great save from him.
Yeah, and some great work. There was a lot I really loved about Martin Ødegaard. And I want to shout out Ben White, who the yellow card against Matoma also got done on the right just before Gross kind of missed, and it looked like it might have been 1-1. I thought struggled at Villa, could have done better on the McGinn goal. Definitely struggled at Luton on that Barkley goal. So and I've not hesitated to point that out because I love Ben White. I hold him to high standards, but it's coming out from the very reliable people on Twitter that he's basically played playing through an injury, and when you think of Tomiyasu missing, Kivio obviously is a left-sided player, so won't play there. Timber's out as well. Tomiyasu, Timber, yeah. I just want to say, I want to hold my hands up and say, actually, you're playing through an injury, fair play, like really fair play, because you're getting out there to do a job for a team when we need it, and he's doing a good job. I just know the levels he can get to, knowing he's playing through an injury, which I didn't know before. Fair play to him getting out there and doing what he can for the team. So obviously we appreciate anyone that does that in the 11. All right, that's it. Big thanks to Graham as always for his amazing research and stats. Everyone get in the comment section below. Let us know your thoughts on the game and let us know what you want to see ahead of Liverpool Anfield. We'll take some of that and use it for the previews as well. It's a big week. We get a few days to actually enjoy the fact that we're top of the league, but we're back into big action at Anfield this Saturday, isn't it? Saturday. We'll be keeping you up to date with everything on AFTV. Many, many thanks. Catch you all in a bit.